on to the Board of Directors' regularly scheduled board meeting.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Call the meeting of the Bristol County Water Authority Board of Directors to order. It's Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, and it is 5:36.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to sound like the Grim Reaper of the Bristol County Water Authority, but I'd like to ask that we observe a moment of silence for a former director from Barrington who was, I think was one of the originals, Anthony Arrico. I believe he was one of the original board members.
Okay. He died, passed.
Well, that's why we're having a moment of silence. Mr. Chairman.
Could you have a moment of silence for Mr. Enrico?
I hope that's my last one this year.
It's only January.
Thank you, John. The next item on the agenda is public input. Since we have no members of the public here tonight, we'll move on. The next item is a board vote on recommended rate increase for fiscal 2026. Turn it back to the director. We've all just heard the
You all heard the presentation, and we put the budget together, and we assumed, I guess, a rate increase of 3% to meet our budget needs.
Mr. Chairman, that's the reason I asked if we had any figures on the rate, on the new rate from Providence. Maybe a good gesture would be to reduce to 3%, somewhat in line with the new rates from Providence, to give the ratepayers a sign of.
Well, do we have anything official?
That's what I was asking.
We won't know, John. They filed, on December 24th.
And so the PUC has 9 months in which to make a decision.
I don't think they suspended them because I think they were proposed to go into effect, so 8 months. So, yeah, we're not going to know until...
All right, that's understand.
I don't think we'll ever...
August or September.
I think their new rates will probably go into effect on their, the beginning of their fiscal year, which will be July 1.
All right.
So you might be able to factor it in, next year when you do the budget.
We did increase our water purchases from last year to this.
No, I
We
understand
kept it
that,
conservative, but
I'm just saying, if the public knows that we get a lower rate, maybe they think we should give them a little lower rate. That's it.
Providence has proposed a low rate. It's a little bit, what they propose is, I wouldn't say unusual, but it's different than what they have now, so it still has to be,
Okay,
it still has to be approved.
I'm for all the things we're proposing. I just thought maybe we could consider that.
Is it feasible that if it comes in much lower, that we can correct the budget throughout the year? Or is the budget once set now, stable for the year?
You probably want to set your budget. I mean, you can, again, once these rates are in effect, you can certainly,
I think we would evaluate it when we get some hard numbers. Let's see what-
Whatever the number is, does it get implemented into this budget once it happens? Or do you have to wait
Well,
for another?
we won't know what the hard number is until sometime probably in August or September of this year. And that'll go into effect, as Joe said, in July.
And the water purchase is only 17% of the budget, right? So you're talking, if they go down, whatever the decrease is only 17% of that decrease is the water. So if it goes down a percent, it's only 17% of 1% would be the cost savings. Yeah, 17%
Which
purchase.
is I understand. You know, I just, if you want to flash something that says something nice to the public, you know, whether we're doing it, the dollar amount, I think, is irrelevant, especially because it's $1.22 a month or something to the people. Like you said, if we're trying to hold the line on everything, it just, to me, it looks good to the people. Whatever it is.
I think we can all agree without any formal action that when we get a actual rate from the Providence Water Supply Board that's been approved by the PUC and put into effect, that we'll evaluate that against what our situation is. And if it calls for a substantive change, then I'm sure we could do something.
So we likely wouldn't see any noticeable difference until, if it goes into effect September, October, you know, really until we start putting the budget together for next year.
So what we have before us though tonight is a recommendation on a rate increase for fiscal 2026. And I'm looking for a motion regarding that.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion about the recommended rate increase? Okay, hearing no interest in additional discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the recommended rate increase for fiscal 26, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's a unanimous vote. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the board vote on the proposed new administrative lien processing fee that the director had outlined in the presentation at the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion on that administrative lien processing fee? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. The next item is item number 5, the board vote on proposed fee language regarding meter installation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Okay. I call for a vote. All those in favor of the language regarding meter installation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This is also unanimous. Okay. Now we move into some new ground. Item number 6, and there's a handout on this. And so I'll turn it to Steve to give us a summary of what this is all about.
Yeah, I'm seeking board approval for a contract award for a security system upgrade. I know we talked about this a little bit in the past, but we have a current building security through a subscription service offered by Cox Communications. However, Cox is getting out of that business. And although they don't support system upgrades or any new installations, and we have a need because of the Hope Street pump station, and also with the metering location at Kent Heights in East Providence, with our connection there to install a security system there as well. So we made the decision to go out and take a look at what's out there. To install an entire new system, it'd be an upgrade of what we have, as well as give us a state-of-the-art system. Our IT manager has been soliciting quotes from 3 Rhode Island-based vendors under the state FDA, and we're recommending to go with the lowest responsive bidder from Shanix Technology, with their quote of $73,937, along with 20% contingency for a total project budget cost of $88,725.
motion to approve the recommendation.
A question first, Steve,
Yes.
is the input of the cameras,
You do have the motion.
Is there a motion? Do we have a second? Okay,
Now you
now
can
we
ask
have
your question.
is what the cameras are picking up, is that viewable someplace by us here or?
Yes.
Pardon?
Yeah,
Here?
yeah, yes,
And is it recorded or is it simply viewable?
it's recorded.
Okay.
Is the service that's provided here basically the same as Cox was providing, or is it more? More comprehensive.
The cameras are much better. Yeah, will give us better coverage.
Was all three companies using like the same type of equipment, or was there any differences between them?
Roughly the same type of equipment. Yeah.
So was the scoring matrix mostly based on price?
Yes,
The 20% contingency, that's not a contractual amount. That's if something happens in the project and you need more money, you don't have to come back to the board.
correct.
Okay, any other questions, comments, issues, thoughts? Okay. Can I get, we have a motion, we had a second, we had discussion. Call for a vote. And all those in favor of awarding the contract for, is it Shanix Company for $73,937 for the 20% contingency for a total project budget cost of $88,725. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, thank you. I looked down at my sheet here a moment ago and I see that I've been remiss in a major way. I had down after call to order, introduce our new board member, David Fales from Barrington, and somehow I missed that, so I'm really sorry about that. But this is our new board member from Barrington. Welcome.
Thank you, happy to be here. Steve, I had the opportunity to meet with Steve and Lauren yesterday. I know sometimes the administrative person kind of runs things, so it was good to meet everyone and take a tour of the building as well, so thank you.
You didn't take them up to the Shad Factory yet?
Did take him across the street.
We talked about seeing the pipeline from the golf courses years ago, so, yeah.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. The first one is the December 11th, 2024 board meeting, for which there was not a quorum.
There's a quorum for everything except for approving the budget.
Right, okay. So, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the December 11th meeting? Motion?
So moved.
Second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion of the minutes? They appear to be in order.
I'd like to make an amendment to point 6, board member town council reports, just to state that Director Gross noted that the Barrington Town Council reached out to discuss potentially putting in a cell tower on one of our water towers in Western Barrington.
Okay. Good amendment. Any other amendments, corrections, issues? No? With that amendment, I'll call for a vote on approving the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No?
I'll abstain. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, and then we have the special board meeting, which was held a couple of weeks ago on January the 9th.
Move to approve.
Second?
Second. Any comments or corrections on the minutes from the January 9th board meeting? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. Now we'll turn it over to the director for his monthly report.
Okay. All right, well, the phase 2 design project, estimating to report on that is, Mike and I, we've been really pushing the engineering firm to really move this project along, particularly with some of the challenging crossings that I noted in my presentation, but I was encouraged to see that they did submit the 90% plan submission for the utility bridge crossing over the railroad tracks. They submitted that to their, the railroad's consulting engineer, and the consulting engineer actually got back to them really rather quickly, and they accepted the design and specifications as submitted. So with that acceptance or approval, we can move forward with an application now to their real estate division to pursue any kind of necessary easements that we need for that. So I was,
Have you had any extensive conversations with the railroad?
yeah,
Yeah. Did they bring up any major issues?
no, not yet, not to date.
Where are they headquartered?
Worcester. I think they're in Worcester.
Or was Providence, Worcester?
Yeah.
What is it,
Genesee, Wyoming. And the water supply contract with Pawtucket was finally signed by both parties. The water's there, we just need to build a pipe.
We have a lot of fire people. Maybe we could do a bucket brigade in the meantime.
They send it all out to California right now.
So for the treatment plant, as I noted, the buildings are pending at this time. And we had that meeting back in November, and the committee had given the community folks there 3 months. Well, we're kind of close to that 3-month period. So I'm thinking that we'll be scheduling a meeting maybe in March for further discussions on the topic.
So have you heard anything back from them at all?
A little bit.
I'm sure at the 11th hour they'll have something.
Do we, whatever way that goes, do we have a plan or a scheduled date for demo for what's left? Or do you have that listed? I know we've obligated the money or we've set it aside to do that.
We set aside the money.
So do we have a date that when these folks don't come in or come in, do we have a date when we're gonna take it down?
We don't, but I think that's something that we can discuss at future meeting.
Let's have the properties meeting in March, and then we can discuss about it in our next meeting after that.
Well, just, the construction period when we, spring hits, are we gonna wait and, if it's,
We can
there
talk-
to do without an increase in cost or anything like that. I think that, or do that,
And we can talk about scheduling a properties committee meeting. I think the sooner the
Well,
better,
that's
because
in March, that's what he's saying in March, but I'm asking that way, I think one of the buildings is gonna come down, is that not true?
One of the buildings is going to come down.
Yes.
When
That's what I'm asking, if you're gonna, if they.
I don't have the schedule about. I mean, I think I wasn't providing the schedule. I think we need to discuss internally as to what that schedule might be.
right, what I'm saying is that
That's why I'm asking, is it, you don't have that yet?
No, but I mean, if the board or the committee decides this is what we're going to do, we could be out to bid it like within a month. I mean, where the plans and specifications are ready to go.
And what I was saying is that we should hold a meeting before March, and I would say probably in early part of February, to establish these parameters and drop dead dates and so forth, so that those are out there in the public, so that everybody knows where we're going and when we need to make decisions by. So we'll talk about a schedule on that.
Sounds good.
Let Steve get that underway.
And for the dam, that's pretty much wrapped up. They worked the week before Christmas, and they removed the expanded breach to the west. The earthen material to the west of the breach is pretty much all gone within a week. And at this point, the site's been stabilized and just have some minor grading, and then there'll be plantings and reestablishment of the site. For the lead service line program, just to wrap up, what was completed last year, we had 38 public sides replaced and 10 on the private side, and then for this coming construction season, we have 21 public side services remaining. We also continue to outreach to those customers where they have galvanized private service or an unknown private service, so we can, help us identify what their material is made out of, and then we're also kind of putting together a program or plans to, what it will cost folks to replace those services if they chose to. So we'll continue to gather that information. That's going to be ongoing throughout the year. For the next three items, BCW properties, public information, board member education, I know new items to report for this past month. For water purchases, so we saw a little tick increase from December. And for year to date, we're still running a little bit below the prior 5-year average. The graphs are attached.
Do you know if that seems to be the same?
What's that?
With other water companies?
What's that?
Decline in the usage?
In the winter?
Anywhere, and with other water authorities?
I don't know. Oh, like what we're seeing over time?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I know, for instance, for, East Providence in particular, they saw, due to loss of the industry that used a lot of water. I mean, they had that large 8 million gallon steel tank at Kent Heights, and they took that down, and they put up a 6 million gallon tank in its place. Because of the decrease in water usage.
If you go back in time, John, and you look at the industry type in Rhode Island, and I'm most familiar with the metropolitan Providence area in Warwick, but there were a lot of water-using industries, primarily the electroplaters and metal finishes and such. And initially, there was a lot of reluctance to try to reduce consumption, but we saw easily 90% reductions in that industry. And then what happened is we saw the industry dwindle. And so you don't see a lot of large water-using industries any longer. I don't know how many we have in Bristol County, but I can't imagine there are many.
Oh, yeah, we've seen it, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Reservoirs for Providence and Pawtucket, I mean, they were, in the plants, they were sized at the time for all the industry that was there. And those are all gone. Most of it, a lot of it's gone. So most of it now is just small commercial business and small businesses and residential.
Even Quonset Point, which for many years was always trying to secure water supply at much 2, 3, 4 times what they had available to them, found that they didn't really need to have that much water. And the water using industries that they tried to lure into Quonset Point never came. And so even in those areas, water consumption went down considerably.
Okay, moving on, we are currently out for RFP for both general legal services, which is Mr. Keogh, and labor law services, as they reach their respective 3-year terms. So we'll be getting those back, and submissions will be presented to the board at the February 27th meeting. This time of year, Lauren in particular does a good job of scheduling training for employees. Just to give the board some idea, we recently, yesterday we completed a defensive driving class that was offered by our insurance provider, Beacon. And we'll be doing Right to Know, which is hazardous chemical identification and handling on February 19th. And ethics training on February 26th.
Did Beacon send a loss prevention person out to do that for you?
Yes.
Great.
We'll soon have 2 open water utility operator positions. We recently just advertised for them. One employee recently moved on for another opportunity, and another will soon be retiring. So we'll be advertising, and we tentatively scheduled testing to take place in March.
Where do you advertise these positions?
We do it locally, and we advertise in the professional organization publications. In Projo. The annual performance review of the executive director will take place in the coming weeks, which will require a meeting with the personnel committee next month. Capital improvement project summary table is here, and all the projects that you see with Hope Sheet are basically down to just some minor punch list stuff that Mike is hammering at to get completed. As I noted at the presentation, foreman Jim Vieira does a great job with the drone, capturing photos, videos of our projects and water system infrastructure. And we not only won first place, but second place. The second place photo is a picture of the above ground pipeline that used to connect the Shad to the Kicking Reservoir. And that's the subject of my last item here, is that there's about 3,000 feet of that pipeline that runs above ground to the salt marsh of the Palmer River. And the individual that helped us secure a number of grants for the dam removal project is now very interested in us removing the pipeline that's abandoned in the marsh. And so Save the Bay has received some grant funding to start with engineering and permitting. There will be some costs on our part as well. But we recently forwarded an access agreement to the golf course. Swansea Country Club owns the land. And once we get that, we plan on moving forward with the engineering and permitting work for that project.
Having been out there quite a few years ago, and the pipe was in really bad shape then, I can't imagine that this pipeline is structurally sound in many areas.
No, it's not.
And I wonder if going out there to remove the pipeline would be more destructive to the environment than just letting it decay and fall into the marsh. But I don't know anything about that, but because this is not solid ground at all. It's like tiny little islands, if anything, that it might be resting on, and it's...
Yeah, that is a challenge, and that is the reason that we've hired an engineering firm to come up with means and methods to do that with, you know, so we're not creating a worse mess out there than what the pipeline actually does. And also, you know, define the right access in and out of there. So there'll be close communication with the golf course as well. That concludes my report.
Michael?
Not too much else. Right now, we're kind of in the response season. Throughout the system, we do go out and we do inspect the hydrants that are known to kind of leak, and we do maintain those throughout the season, especially in the cold. But the majority of our work this time of year is water main repair response. And the events are picking up with the cold weather, the moisture, the frost, and the ground movement. We had a few over the weekend, another one today, and one last week that kind of made some noise in Barrington, where it's associated in the vicinity of the school. I have a photo of that one. Fortunately, we've been able to do that one and one today with limited disruption to customers, because we're able to encapsulate the repair and not do these very large shutdowns and deep watering where customers, you know, at least the one we did today, if we had to shut that down, customers would have been without water for all day and into the evening, given the amount of pipe that would have had to been dewatered. We've incorporated this type of clamp that's on the second page into a lot of our repairs, and it's allowed us to be quite efficient. Like, they're already out of there from where they were on Medicom today, and it was a very quick repair over in Barrington. So this has helped versus the conventional way of dewatering the pipe and putting in a piece of new pipe. But we're out there, they are coming in. It is a normal amount. It's not excessive, but this time of year, this is what we do.
Not an easy thing. In the case of the Barrington one, since you have photos here, how deep is this pipe, and how did you learn of the break?
Most breaks are not that bad, so we can't really detect them through pressure fluctuations. Do have that type of equipment and monitoring out there, but more often than not, it's a phone call from somebody that either sees flowing water, ice, something surfacing, and then we respond. Through the response, we do have to identify where it's come from, because just because the water's coming up at point A does not necessarily correlate that the leak is there. So it does take some time to then find the actual location. We don't want to trench the whole road and look for the defect in the pipe, so we do as much as possible from the surface to get on the exact position. And the guys are pretty good at that, and that helps with the restoration, because if we trench the whole road, there's potential we have to pave a lot more. So you'll see them drill holes, ground mic, do some surveillance activities to try to get one concise pit over that failure, and they are quite good at it. So,
And how deep is this pipe?
but most of our mains are about 4 to 5 feet.
And out of curiosity, how deep is the frost going down?
I don't know the depth right now. Last week it was only a few inches. I can't imagine it's much more, but it would be more now.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it, like, it So I can't imagine that there's 2 feet or else they would have had a hard time getting through it because when the ground is wet, the frost is much harder. So the more moisture that's in the soil, the harder the frost is. Dry soil you'll have frost, but the machines can easily scrape through it. So the fact that they were as efficient as they were today, I can't imagine the frost is that bad as historical, like 2-3 feet of frost. So it is out there, it does move the ground, but luckily right now it's not that bad.
Thank you.
In the case of that break by the high school, we were notified in the morning, and then staff did a good job communicating, the fact to the high school that if we had to go in and make the repair, they would be without water.
They had closed early, I believe.
Was that?
I believe the high school had closed early that day.
They made a decision to close early, but we kept the water on until they decided what they wanted to do and make their plans.
What street was
So
that?
they did let the kids out at 1. They gave them some time, I guess, to get some buses together. We started making the repair, then around 3 o'clock. They were done at 5 o'clock.
Was it on Lincoln?
Yeah, we manage the leak through that whole process. And we do that with most customers. We don't go in and immediately shut the water off. We want to find it, we want to limit that disruption. We hate when people come running out of the house because the water came off while they were in the shower. We do as much communication out there as possible. And like Steve said, they were talking to the facilities folks at the school. When we opened it, we were dewatering it, all while the water was surfacing it.
So was the leak on, is it Lincoln Road?
Lincoln.
Yeah. But it's good that it was their decision, not our decision, to close school early, because that was a big issue within the town of Barrington that day.
Thank you. Colin?
All right. So my report is summarizing our planning for this year's capital improvement project. As Steve touched on in the public hearing presentation, we are looking into the main break that occurred this summer on Gooding Ave as a part of the high service expansion. That's going to be roughly 800 feet of new 8-inch ductile iron water main at Gooding Ave and Naomi Street in Bristol. Also with the project, we're looking to install roughly 300 feet of 12-inch ductile iron main on Child Street to increase redundancy and resiliency to East Warren. And this also, that scope of work also includes abandoning unused pipes from our water treatment facility. So I also have some dates here as far as events for the project. We're planning on advertising this on February 13th, with the bids being due on March 13th and awarding your bid at the March 27th meeting. And as far as the lead service replacement scope, we're waiting for correspondence with the state as far as funding and the scope of work as it relates to that.
I think we've talked about it before, but the picture of the pipe that was removed on Gooding Avenue, that certainly is beyond normal corrosion.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions on projects?
I just have one item to report on from the IT director's report. So Randy's been working with Lauren, and we'll be coming out soon with a texting feature to notify board members, and can also be used for employee alerts. But as Lauren sends out now is email reminders during meetings and whatnot. But this will be a She can do it right from her station, send out a text feature, and it will give the ability to just respond, will you be attending, you know, A, yes, B.
Even on a flip phone?
Oh, gosh.
That's the,
Texting is messages that you send to your phone.
The board ought to buy us all new phones.
yeah, that's that old coal fire.
What is that rotary phone, John, the dial?
I go to school, no.
No, I mean, it's a low operator.
BR 549.
I'm double checking to see if there's some training on that we can send out, but I haven't seen it in the report, so.
Keep blowing on it, toes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to financial report. Daniel.
All right, so we're into November, 9 months through, in the home stretch. If we look at November versus last November, revenue's down a little bit versus last November, just 0.7%. It's just that overall decrease that we've been seeing in consumption for the year. And then expenses were down just a little bit, just under 4%. And that's really, again, the consumption. The biggest chunk of that decrease is in the purchase of water from Providence / East Providence. Go to the next page with through November. We can see that we're a little bit over compared to last 9 months, 5.6%. That's largely the rate increase. The rate increase through November is pretty much offset the decrease in consumption. We'll get to that later on, but the consumption is only down a little bit. Year-to-date expenses are only up slightly, 1.38%. Bigger items of note are actually a couple of things that are down. The salary and wages for admin are lower. That was due to that eliminated position last year, or position we never filled. And there was 2 months of an open position. Administrative expenses are a little bit lower due to the monthly pension contribution being lower for the current fiscal year versus the prior. And operations and maintenance expenses higher, and that was due to some additional paving costs. Some of the other increases with standard stuff like depreciation and annulation was higher. We go to budget. We're looking good on the budget side. Through November, we're just a little over 11% over budget for revenue. We'll get to the consumption a little bit. Consumption's actually exceeding the budget, the revenue for the year. We're doing a little bit better than budgeted. Expenses are under budget, almost 11% as well. 3 biggest areas there are admin expenses. They're a little lower, about $95,000. Water again is down due to decreased consumption, about $309,000. And professional fees is down $193,000-ish. We just have had fewer legal fees, and not to give Joe any ideas, consulting fees than we budgeted for. It's been a good year for us in that respect. Pages 7 through 9 of the dollars billed and the gallons delivered. The dollars billed are up slightly, 3.66%, while the gallons delivered is down 1.8%, and that's basically the gap between the two is the rate increase. And actually, I mentioned this before in prior meetings, the biggest decrease we've seen it was in March compared to the prior year. I mean, from April through November, there's actually been a slight increase in consumption, a little over 1.5%. I was kind of surprised with November's consumption, actually, when Joe gave the report. Wasn't quite expecting that, but we'll take it. Go to page 10, the trust fund report. The debt service ratio through November is down a little bit. It's 7.68 to 1. It was 7.77 in October. And then the pension summary is on page 11. We have an increase for the month of about $153,000. An increase for the year to date of $335,000. All that's really largely due to the unrealized gains. And then the November balance is just under 4 million, 3.931 million. And reminder, the pension, that year is June, so that's about 5 months worth of pension.
Any questions of Dan on finances? Moving on in the agenda, anybody have anything to report regarding their town councils? No? Nobody, okay. Do we have a need to go into executive session?
You need to go this.
Yeah, I had the item on security.
Do both then, I guess.
Security?
Do both.
Do both?
Yeah.
No fun?
Motion to go into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 4246-582, and Rhode Island General Law 42-46-583.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor of going into executive session for the purposes stated, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going into executive session.
Steve, you hungry?
Motion to seal the executive session minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next scheduled meeting is for February 27th. It's a Thursday, right?
Yep.
They're always the Thursday. It's the fourth Thursday, right?
Yes.
The fourth Thursday. Sometimes there are 5 Thursdays. But it's the fourth. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't know why you want to adjourn. but okay.
Carried away yet?